the multiverse till its think is true. Why did I call the channel that? Because I think there's too little of it nowadays. Well, in the last 10, 15, 20 years actually. As far as I can see, even before then, but with the start of social media, it's a big shift. The younger generations can't even, of course they can't, imagine the world different. But people, as they always were, right? With different levels of, let's say, mental capacity. They were still aware of certain things. In context with all other stuff that's going on that dropped immensely with the start of social media. It all became taken for what it seems, only at the surface level was encouraged. So the brains were trained not even to look further. A good tool that I got from one of 50 different jobs that I had was the 5 why method. As an internal auditor or quality assurance manager or however you want to call it, there's this method to ask 5 whys. When something doesn't work, you ask the first why, and then you get the obvious question like, whatever. That's never the right reason. It's never the true core of the issue. So you ask, why is this? It's the second why. And on that answer you ask the third why. And on that answer, and so all 5, you go to really to the core of the start of the enabling of the starting process of the whole issue, right? And that's a tool, I think, it's the best tool for everything, for psychology, knowing one's own self, right? Shadow work and all that stuff. In worldviews, in politics, in social arrangements, in economy, in everywhere. Those who do that are always, if you have the 5 questions, most are on the first. And then not to think too much. They don't go further. Everyone that goes further is one step ahead of them. The ones that get to the third why are 2 steps ahead, and so on. That's why the dark tetra types have it so easy. Too easy. To climb all the ladders, to manipulate circumstances, people, perceptions, all of that good stuff. But with social media, most of them, it's just content, just noise, just constant noise. And so, if one wants to keep up with the world, they have to ingest it. Plug in the USB and just high-speed download every BS that's so unimportant, just unimportant, or even not even true, half lies, or uninformed or twisted surface facts, and it's crazy. And everyone has a word now. Everyone can spew out any rap they came across themselves, and not doing the researching on the truth of even that one statement or that one view or that one, no second or third or fourth or fifth order effects and any of that. And so the masses are intoxicating masses with noise that is just packaged in shock responses and good or faces and thumbnails like, oh my god, we should all be, what is that? For some people, it works, of course. Otherwise they wouldn't do it. It works here, on clicks and here. That's all the main driver, right? The look at me effects. It works because, same with music, right? The more mediocre it is, the more fans it gets because of that curve of the average intelligent audiences. I'm not into that. No. So I would like to speak to those of you who feel the same way. I know you're out there. Even if you're rare, even if you seem to be very rare species, it's better to have even 10 such in your life, right? Than 70,000 FB friends. Even one is immeasurably valuable. If you meet on the soul level. But even a few intelligent ones are comfortable, let's say, trading their authenticity, their integrity, their sovereignty even, for the price of fitting in with whomever, whatever groups. When did we become so weak as a species? Even the average. I remember a time when these were the exceptions, not the rule. Critical thinking should be incorporated in every curriculum, in every school, at every age appropriate, of course, but not these remember and repeat. But questioning the children instead. Are you sure that's that? Why do they think that is? These are much better. Approaches. Oh God. Sorry about that. I promised myself I'll go all unscripted. So there you have it. This, what I wanted to say is this programming starts very early, right? At home, in kindergarten, preschool, school, high school, college, blah, blah, blah. It's all the same. I'll tell you what to believe, and if you do it, you'll be rewarded. It's programming, one-on-one. You get love from the parents. You get, and since all the children in kindergarten are singing the same songs that they don't understand, you feel safe. You're in a group. You can't be wrong when everyone else says it, and something like that. All of that. And we never, most never ever questioned it. baseline. Alone, overthinking, alone that it exists instead of underthinking, is a clear signal where the world is going. Or as Jordan Maxwell said, they don't want your kids to be educated, so they don't get away of important people by doing too much thinking. That's so true. You can just follow the whole rabbit hole of follow the money and all of that. And what those people said, what kind of nation they wanted. And that spread around half the globe, mostly Western countries and Europe, like a plague. But with so much leverage, let's say, and the biggest one is money, of course. There it starts. There it always starts. Just implementing one agenda after the other in sheep's clothing, right? Oh, this will do something good. And those who don't even ask that first why say, yeah, it sounds good, so it must be good. Let's do it. If they even have a voice in that. Why else of let's say 20 different approaches to things in most of the world, that single one is chosen throughout different nations, different parties, different religions, different cultures, different languages, different everything. The world is never that unified in their thinking, except when it comes to certain agendas. Just a coincidence, nothing to worry about. But the issue of unlearned critical thinking, they feel every day, maybe 10, maybe 50 times a day, but they don't close the gap of the why. The why is the nemesis, the most important, most dangerous question. Even the first one. God forbid they get into cognitive dissonance or something. change the worldview accordingly. The other thing is the numbing down of empathy, the constant bombardment of bad news. Even though in the world, and they don't even show the worst things that happen in the world. Yeah, sadly, some really bad stuff is happening every day. But the ratio is still at least 95 to 5 something. And we should absolutely address all of them, not focus all the news on certain politicians, irrelevant anyway. Not on certain celebrities. Who cares who married who or divorced or idol worship, man. Idol worship got so bad too. You don't even call it that anymore. Once it was called a sin. Paradoxically, because some religions do that too. Anyway. It's crazy. And if you're, I think it's called paralysis by overwhelming choices or something. When you have, you stand in front of a shelf of 8,000 different soft drinks, and mostly people pick always the same, but never tried the other 7,800 or so. If those favorite 20, of which they chose one in 98% of the time, were just gone, they would be paralyzed, standing in front of those 7,800. Where should I even start to think? Just paralysis. The same is with information or misinformation. I'll get that into that another time. It's just, since everyone has a voice, and most of the loudest ones and that get most attention are the ones that know the least, or that think to know. They're on the first peak of Dunning-Kruger effect and stay there a lifetime, mostly. Why is it so appealing to most. Not to go through with constant learning in life. Why is it so hard to accept that you don't actually know something? Isn't that the best thing that can happen to you? Because then, if you realize it, you can change it, you can learn what it actually is. What is it about cognitive dissonance? Right? That, oh my god, short term discomfort in front of your friends because you don't know, you're not God and you don't know everything, and you admit it. Oh my god, right? Oh my god, you don't know something. Oh, so what? You know everything? It's mind-boggling. Not even the first step. Not even the first why. I think long-lasting betterment of this can only be achieved by the vast paradigm shift in the understanding of ourselves worldwide. And with, starting with parents who, most of them are indoctrinated too, so they indoctrinate their children out of love. Wrap your mind around that, right? Be a good slave. Or else listen to your teacher, even if he's just reading, just telling you to remember what he reads in a book that was written by the victors of a war. And then you're a good boy or a good girl. How did we even allow ourselves to become this world? We have some really brilliant people around that understand all this. And just because they're in a minority, of course they are, let's say, from IQ 130 and up, doesn't say much either. I know. But I believe the true measure of intelligence would be this dot connecting stuff, this um, pattern recognition across board, holistic thinking, uh, adaptability in comparisons of all the segments with new information, you know. Every time you can't, like, if we have a new discovery in quantum physics, we should think through again chemistry, biology, healthcare, you know. But it never goes there. It never goes really there. Or it takes 100 years till we stop healing with leeches. Scalpels, like some butchers. Don't get me wrong, there are good doctors out there, good surgeons, and most of their hands are tied too, or after a few years in the job they numbed down the true inner intrinsic wish to heal people and to psychologically defend themselves against the frustrations and depressions. So they just, over the years, maybe started thinking only about their paycheck and the next vacation. Same thing happens to most people, with lawyers, with judges, with wherever you look, that even if the core motivation was good, it fades, and they can't admit it to themselves, to their husbands or wives, to their families, and they feel like trapped in those avatar roles that they play for the rest of their lifetime. Whom does this help? If then you hear about stories like a man goes to a hospital with a cough and comes out without a leg. Sounds like a bad joke. They're understaffed, they're tired, they're overworked, they're, in many cases, it just doesn't work. You don't, again, We don't ask the whys. Why? Does the man have a cough? Does he live in a city that doesn't have any regulations for the chemical factory that is behind his house? Or, you know, or this small problem in the city too big, or, you know, not even that why. Why don't we have this why? I don't hear it, I don't see it anywhere. Not even the first. Wasn't it in China so that the doctors were paid when the population was healthy? Not the other way around? Maybe we should think about bringing that back. Then they wouldn't be overworked. Then 9% of them wouldn't even be needed in their jobs, which is not a bad thing. That's whole another topic. The world can be a playground for all of us in healthy environments, in every way, physically, mentally, ecologically, spiritually. And it would be profitable. And no one would starve, no one would be homeless. It's all doable. We have all the know-how and the resources. Just have to stop accumulating them into the hands of the 1%. How is that democracy? How is that fair distribution that one guy has more than 2 million others? We all want it that way? We all vote for that? We all agree to that? What good is democracy then? The greed, the money again. As means to an end to fill a bottomless pit of the emptiness of someone's soul. Doesn't make anyone happy. Anyone. So why? I just started, but we can talk about it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm seeing it all too simplistic. Let me know in the comments. I'll gladly discuss any of this with you. And I'm glad if I can be convinced of that I'm wrong. Then I can learn. I think I thought about it long enough, but maybe I didn't research enough in my, as I said in the previous video, in my 30 years of intense studying the world. Maybe I missed something. Of course, you can't know it all. No one can. But I have pretty selective ways of getting to certain knowledge and realizations. We can talk about all kinds of books and philosophers and the nature of reality itself, anything. Of course, there are those endless questions like free will versus determinism and all of that stuff, biology versus consciousness, all of that. Questions that can't be or not yet proven. We can circle in one another on that for millennia, and we do, right? Throughout history, there were always wars about different opinions. No one didn't know. Shh, beep. Really. They always just thought they had the true story, the true word. I hope can tickle each other in about all of that in a fair and respectful way. That's it for me today.